Hi there, Malcolm here with my 74th Booktube video, and today I'm bringing you August's wrap-up. I managed 9 books in that month, so let's get cracking. First up is my book of the month, Planetfall 2 After Atlas by Emma Newman, a book that was recommended to me in a YouTube comment. I've done my review of this in a separate video, so I'll leave a link to that if you want to go and find out what I thought about this. And after that I read Star Wars Boba Fett Enemy of the Empire. In this one, Boba is tasked with the job of bringing back a special case by Darth Vader himself. The case has been taken by an Imperial officer who's gone AWOL and has gone hiding out in a monastery somewhere on some planet. So another opportunity for Boba Fett to show off his badassery as he hunts down this Imperial officer, while at the same time fighting off another ragtag team of assassins sent to kill him, also by Darth Vader. Quite enjoyable, featuring quite a bit of dark humour in it. The slightly cartoony artwork, however, does assuage the gravitas of the characters, and the assassins sent to kill Boba just don't look or feel dangerous enough to have been given the task. Well, clearly they're not going to be, but most characters actually look the part. They didn't. There you go. I mean, artwork's absolutely fine. I don't think it works particularly with the story. The ending's a little bit predictable, but still, it's worth enjoying it. At the back of the book is a bonus short story, Salvage, which sees Boba checking out a derelict spacecraft, which happens to hold some nasty surprises. I can't really tell you much more than that, although to a degree it is pretty much standard abandoned spacecraft floating in space type story. However, I would say it was a stronger story than the main one. All in all though, worth reading. And after that I read Strata by Terry Pratchett, meaning I've pretty much read everything that Terry Pratchett has written and got published in a novel. This one I had trouble pinning down. This is a separate story from his Discworld series of novels, which he's obviously best known for, and one of the rare times he actually goes for some hard sci-fi, proper science fiction going on here. Unfortunately, the funky Josh Kirby artwork, normally found on the covers of the Discworld series, does make adjusting to the fact that this is a hard sci-fi very difficult. This is also one of Terry's earlier books, and I found actually didn't read very easily. It was disjointed in places, it jumped about a lot, and sometimes it was quite difficult to actually follow what was going on and where we were and who was the main character at any given point. There's also nothing on the outside of the book to indicate exactly what the story's about. I read the blurb at the back, but it didn't really tell me much. It's not a thick book, but I was a good halfway in at least before I actually found out that this was about going to visit not the Discworld, but another world like a disc. In the same sort of vein as Larry Niven's Ringworld or Bob Shaw's Dyson Sphere in Orbitsville. In this case, it's planet Earth, but flat, and they land and explore and try and find out just what is going on. The twist reveal at the end, I still don't really know what to think about it. It's one of those pseudo science fiction-y type endings that you quite often get in these books. I think it works for the story, but it felt like a punchline to a long drawn out joke you'd actually forgotten the beginning to. I'm glad I saved this till last. Had I read this first, I probably wouldn't want to read anything else by Terry Pratchett. I thought, well, no, he's not worth it. More for fans of Terry Pratchett rather than a book to try out to see what Terry Pratchett's all about. Not his best, but it's not bad. It was worth reading. Or if you're not a Terry Pratchett fan, possibly just boring, nonsensical. Well, from one Terry Pratchett to the next, I then read Moving Pictures. This is a Discworld novel, and in this one the alchemists have discovered the means of making movies. And so people troop off to the holy woods to be made into a star, and a whole load of funny things happen along the way. As a reread, I thoroughly enjoyed this one. I'd actually forgotten a big chunk of it, so it was nice to be refreshed. I've read some reviews about it. Those who didn't get it didn't enjoy it. Those who do get it enjoyed it. I get it, and I loved it. It's also the turning point of this Discworld series, and that it's the first one chronologically to actually settle down a bit. Mustrum Ridcully is now the Arch Chancellor of the Unseen University, and will remain so for the rest of the series. Gaspode the Wonder Dog is staring at people and demanding their sausages. The Bursar isn't mad yet, but it's on its way. And Cut Me Open Throat Dibbler gets possibly his biggest role in the entire series. Huge amounts of fun and a good poke at the golden age of cinema. Booktastic. Then after that I read Star Wars Bounty Hunters, featuring 4 short stories following various bounty hunters as they do their thing. First up was Aura Singh, a mysterious figure standing there watching the pod racing going on in The Phantom Menace. Here she's hired to hunt down and kill 3 doppelgangers set on 3 worlds, because one of them did a bad thing and the other 2 are helping hide him. It's great seeing Aura Singh doing some different things, because usually you just get to see her in our classic I hate Jedi, all Jedi must die, kill the Jedi So this one she was less Jedi killing oriented, which is quite nice. My main hang up with that story was that everything happens on familiar planets. So she gets hired on Endor, she goes to Hoth, Tatooine, Bespin, a galaxy of thousands of habitable planets. I find it very unlikely in the course of one mission, the 4 planets she visits all feature in the original trilogy. The artwork's pretty good and suitably gritty, and here she is flying her stuff on Bespin, but complaint about the overfamiliar aside, it was a good fun story. Following that was Scoundrel's Wages, which focuses more on Lando Calrissian, who falls foul of a hut and then finds himself on a hunt where he's the prey. And the hunters are various bounty hunters, including Dengar, Forlom and Bosk. Some of the bounty hunters that weren't Boba Fett on the Super Star Destroyer in The Empire Strikes Back, where Darth Vader's waving his finger at Boba Fett saying no disintegrations. This one was a lot of fun, showing off Lando's natural charm and luck, as he manages to get out of one scrape and fall into the next. The artwork is very different and much more cartoony, but due to the much lighter atmosphere of a human being hunted down by trained killers, fitted the story perfectly. A lot of fun, and I enjoyed that one. After that, Boba Fett gets his own story in Twin Engines of Destruction, or rather he would, but he has to share this one with a doppelganger, or copycat, Jodo Cast, who's just some guy who managed to get hold of some Mandalorian armour, and is now posing as Boba Fett in order to get some higher bounties and get paid more. And of course Boba Fett doesn't play that awfully well. This is one of the few times you see Boba Fett out of his armour. However, as this is a post falling into the Sarlacc story, he is heavily bandaged, because he was slightly digested a bit. Yeah, so the two end up facing off, and I bet you can't guess who wins. Bearing in mind, one was brought low by a blind man wielding a staff randomly. The artwork is slightly more old school, but certainly works in the style of the story. I have no complaints with this one, very, very satisfying. And finally is the story Kennec's Kill, which is the alter ego of the Imperial Royal Guard Canos, as he seeks retribution against the death of his master, the Emperor. The story takes place between the first 2 Crimson Empire books, and sees him create the bounty hunter persona seen in Crimson Empire 2. After eliminating the man who would be Emperor in Crimson Empire 1, Canos finds himself in the number 1 Uno bounty slot, and so in order to protect himself, he goes on the attack and leads a whole bunch of bounty hunters to their demise. And some top quality artwork, really dark and gritty, is in keeping with the character. I thoroughly enjoyed this collection of stories. Each one's very different, even though they're all on bounty hunters. Different authors, different illustrators, but a whole pile of good. Booktastic. And after that one I read Star Wars Vader's Quest. This story takes place just after the events of Episode 4 A New Hope. Luke's blown up the Death Star and Darth Vader's flung off into space in doing a major wobbly. And so Vader is now on the quest to find out the identity of that individual who blew up the Death Star. However, things go from bad to worse to those around him when he finds out the name of the pilot. Meanwhile, there's a disgruntled rebel pilot who missed out on the Battle of Yavin. He had measles of all things. Herd immunity, people, it's a thing. Seriously, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away and they get measles. This thing's virulent. Anyway, he feels like he missed out and everyone's giving the hotshot farm boy all the attention that he should have got. Anyway, his big mouth gets him into trouble, but then we do get a good character arc following him. Yeah, there's a good few interesting characters in this one, particularly Mala Mala, who is a crippled female who is carried around in an exoskeleton droid, who also acts as a bodyguard and assassin. I'd like to see more of her. I had to look her up on Wikipedia to see if there was more, and apparently there's a flashback in the Chewbacca graphic novel about her being a girl and being in the accident in the first place and how she got her name Mala Mala. But otherwise, a really intriguing character that is very underutilised in the expanded universe. And also Luke is sent on a diplomatic mission to a planet where of course things go horribly wrong and he's got to sort of Forrest Gump his way through it all. Which he does, hooray. Some pretty good artwork. I wouldn't say it's anything special, but it works and I liked it. Buy it. Next up was my library book, and this month it's Alt Human by Keith Brook. Now this science fiction story looks at the Fermi paradox, which basically states that if life in the universe is pretty much guaranteed to happen again and again and again, then why aren't we seeing it? In this take, it's the fact that the aliens are already here, and have been for some time. Not hidden in the shadows, but as our overlords. But they're not really. This is set in a very established world where humans and aliens live in a particular hierarchy. The humans are very much at the bottom, and the whole host of different types of aliens, which only 2 or 3 actually get any real look at. And it follows a lad called Dodge, who steals identities so that he and his fellow humans can move about with clearance, because it's a very much a controlled state they live in. Humanity is pushed into various reservations around cities with extreme penalties if they miss curfew or anything like that. It's that sort of world. And as usual with this sort of thing, there's rumours of a human city, a last sanctuary, a place where humans can go and live out their lives free of the oppression of the aliens. And of course the story turns into a great journey to go and find this place. Kind of predictable at times as it hits the usual notes, told very much from the bottom end of the knowing what's going on spectrum, and that you spend the entire time not knowing what's going on. You know, like I said, it mentions there's an alien hierarchy, what the aliens do, what these things are, why they're doing it, what's going on here. There's no effort to explain. There's a big thing going on, but when they move away, the big thing is no longer referenced and is presumably still going on, but no, it's never referenced. Big revelations are made. I guess initially some fuss is made out of that, the revelation is very revelationary and I'm not happy about the fact that it's a revelation that it is, but then no effort goes into explaining as to just why and what. And the end very much falls into that Doctor Who trap of pseudo science fiction mumbo jumbo. Ooh, pretty lights, flashy, and it's all doing this now. And you just sort of blink a bit and go, what just happened? Yeah, the end of the book's like that. And so I closed the book thinking, well, that was a thing that did something. It tries to be a lot more clever than it is. There was some enjoyment to be had, but the main character very much just reacted to everything going on. I mean, he becomes leader of his clan at one point just because somebody pointed at him and said, right, you're leader. And then the old leader came back and then he wasn't leader anymore and that was it. Until he was again. Nobody really shone or stood out in any way. There was an alien that joined the band, you know, a human-liking alien. But they were there and they did things and they said alien things in alien ways. There's also an annoying writing style in here, or it was annoying to me anyway, in that the author would start off a chapter or finish off a chapter giving a little portent of what's just about to happen. You know, we're having a lovely day and that's when we have the bad thing happen. And then we then find out about what the lovely day was and then what the bad thing happens. And then that all went. And so we had a breath of fresh air. And then the other bad thing happened. And then we have to think about the bad thing that happened. But at no point were we allowed to actually go on the story. It kept having to jump forward saying, right, now this is going to happen. And then we find out how it actually plays out. Some stories do that and I think it works well. I don't think this story did it very well at all. And it's, well, why are you telling me that? Just get there. And the other thing that irked me was its repetition. Like I said, there are huge aspects of this alien city and the alien structure and everything that you just don't find out. But there's other things which we get told at the beginning or quite near early on, and it's great. Glad we told us that. And then it tells us it again. So, well, we knew that. And then a bit later on, it mentions the fact that this is the thing, that it does this and all that. It's like, yeah, I know now. You've told me now twice or 3 times. I got the picture. Is it going to tell me again? Yes, it's going to tell me again. Okay, right, now I really know. So it's going to be a huge major plot point, yes? No, it just keeps telling you about it. So I'm not sure if there was an issue with editing in this and that. You know, we had the idea, stuck it in the book in several places and then forgot to remove it from other places. End result, boring, nonsensical. There was enjoyment to be had. I didn't say it was absolutely terrible, but 370 pages of just stuff. I read it really quickly though, so there is that. And after that I managed to finish The Walking Dead, The Rise of the Governor by Robert Kirkman and J. Bonansinga. This is a book I've been reading while I've been boiling the kettle and other free moments like that. So it's taken me a little while to read. You know, sometimes lucky to get a paragraph in. This is based off the graphic novels, not the TV series, and it follows so far as the Blake brothers, Philip and Brian, Philip's still alive daughter Penny, and his 2 mates, Nick and Bobby, as on the road surviving the zombie apocalypse. And we see the sequence of events that turn a reasonably normal chap into the governor of Woodbury, who is in no way a nice and stable person. There are numerous trigger warnings with this one, so be warned. But as a character piece, I really enjoyed this. You get to watch a group of fairly normal people gradually get a little bit more unhinged, and in some cases, very much dead. Now, obviously, if you're familiar with the show or the graphic novels, I think you know what to expect in these books. But I must say, I was quite surprised by the quality of what was written here. I wasn't expecting much. I got far more, though, by it. And technically, it took me until 2 in the wee hours of the 1st of September, but still counts as August because I hadn't gone to sleep at that point, and that is Quantum Leap Pulitzer by L. Elizabeth Storm. For those of you who don't know, this is based off a show in the 90s where Sam Beckett, a physicist, invents a time machine, jumps into it, and finds himself leaping into somebody else's body in the past. And then he's got to work out how to fix something that's wrong in that person's life or in the life of somebody that that person knows. And of course, he doesn't know who he is or where he is or anything, as he was helped by his friend Al, who appears to him as a hologram from the future, just because. And in this case, he jumps into the body of a psychiatrist who is seeing returning POWs from the Vietnam War. It just so happens that the next POW to walk through the door is a younger Al, his holographic friend, but the actual one from the past, who's just come back from being a POW in the Vietnam. Neither the younger Al or the older Al are willing to talk about what happened, leading to Sam's continued exasperation in trying to fix a problem he doesn't even know what's there. Bearing in mind that Al's normally there to help him work out what the problem is. So another story on war is hell, because it is, but also quite an interesting insight into the life of a POW, both as one and how they're treated afterwards, as well as the high level of suspicion and mistrust they're given when these people come home from the ordeals that they went through for their country. I found that it kept its theme with the show very nicely, and I know that Al is a big favourite from the show, and it was good to see a lot more of him and his backstory as well. Then my only main complaint with this one is it does reference a particular episode from the show a few times, and it's one I've not seen, and I do feel I missed out because I've not seen the particular episode. But apart from that, really, really good. Buy it. That's if you can find a copy. So there we go there. Mostly all good. Hope you enjoyed that. So you find yourself lying in bed reading a book, desperately trying to finish it. At what hour do you think, no, I'm going to quit now? Or do you just keep going until you finish? I'd love to know, so let me have your comments down below. Or if you want to share your wrap up for August, then leave a link or list in the comment section down below and I'll go and check that out. But as always, if you have nothing nice to say, then please do keep to yourself. Thank you. Until next time, see you later.